Well, y'all, the virus is getting more and more real, but yet here we still are. We're all still shut in, depending on where you are in the world or where you are inside the United States, and we're just dealing with it one day at a time. I'm dealing with it by playing poker. If you watched the last episode, I was going to stay away from playing poker tonight, but why not? It's only 8 o'clock at night, and I don't really have a whole lot of stuff to really talk about, but just in case I did want to take this on for over an hour, which is usually longer than I really plan on making this whole thing go for. I did bring up enough articles to keep me going for a little while, but hopefully everybody is taking the right precautions, staying 6 feet away from one another, not getting in groups of 10 or more. Um, my area is definitely starting to finally crack down on spring break, and they're going to be shutting down Clearwater Beach, which is one of the most popular beaches in the United States. So that's definitely a good thing. Not for my city, not for my local economy, but at least it's good to try to keep this virus down. Excuse me. So, yeah, I do have some things to talk about. I did notice that that there was a press conference. Oh no, oh no. My apologies for the technical difficulties. That was my kitty who was stretching on my table and knocked off my vape stick. So you better watch it, kitty. You don't want to break that thing. I only have one glass piece for my tank. If you vape, then you know what I'm talking about. If that glass breaks, the whole thing is ruined. And if you're such a nicotine fiend as myself, you might have a pack of cigarettes that's probably been frozen in the freezer for the last year and a half, just for such an event that if you break your tank and you are stuck in a situation where it is 10:30 at night, or in my case, 8:15 right now, but I'm not going anywhere, you at least have a plan B stashed somewhere. So anyway, yeah, that was a little interruption, but I did bring up a little bit of notes here that I wanted to mention, and this is how we might have to handle this whole jobs situation. So it looks like the government wants to consider the tips industry, restaurant industry, person to person in the physical, public sphere industry, and they want to sort of supplement their income, but that doesn't really tend to work. I mean, back in the Depression era, way back when our great grandparents were still thriving, they really had to still work. They didn't get to just lay around and collect $1,000 a month indefinitely. I mean, that's not sustainable for our economy. It's going to drive our inflation out of control. So, I mean, I know this is skipping all the way down toward the bottom, but example, Hoover Dam, right here, Hoover Dam. During the Depression, what did they hire? They hired something like 50,000, maybe up to 100,000 people to construct that dam, and it was contracted by the U.S. government. It put tens of thousands of people at work. They got the entire thing built within a couple of years. So when they kept talking about infrastructure, and that was a big talking point back in 2016 during the Trump-Clinton election, or during the election season for 2016, that was one big talking point that they kept bringing up. We got to rebuild our infrastructure. We got to allocate trillions of dollars to rebuild everything. And if it wasn't for the Iraq and Afghanistan war, we could have 4, 5, 6, $7 trillion that we could have just exploded into our interior and could have rebuilt bridges and roads and highways, interstates, clover leaves, and the whole 9 yards. We could have just rebuilt it all. And once the roads were all nice and pristine, we could start going toward public institutions where maybe libraries are falling apart, things like that, and start to make our police departments more modernized and fire departments more modernized, maybe get down to that level of a local level. But yeah, so anyway, pretty much what I kind of came up with here, I kind of had a few ideas when I was listening to this whole talk about giving people money when they're out of work, and I don't think that is a sustainable thing. And so what should they do? Should they handle this situation, the situation being this huge unemployment situation that we're probably going to run into? I mean, I hope it doesn't go over 10% unemployment, but you got to think the long term. I mean, there are some experts that are saying that coronavirus will peak in 45 days. And then the federal government seems to be telling us that it might be until July or even August. And that's a long-term thing. That's not a 1 month stimulus that we're expected to be getting sometime in the near future. This is something that you're going to have to deal with for months. The government's going to have to deal with for months. So how are they going to be able to print all that money and throw it out into the entire country so that we can still be able to pay our bills and pay our house mortgages or rent, which is what I do. Um, I mean, a lot of people are going to be really screwed, especially if you work in a restaurant or if you work in a place like I just said before, like especially shopping mall, which I will get to in a little bit. There is big news when it comes to shopping malls that I just came across, and if you haven't heard the news yet, you should definitely stay tuned because this didn't blow my mind by any means, but it did nevertheless kind of surprise me. But malls are crowded places. A lot of people shop there. I guess depending where you are in the country. I mean, there if you go on YouTube, you can look up entire YouTube channels that have to deal with ghost malls where the malls are still technically open, but there's no stores left and there's no people walking around, but there's still heat or air conditioning blowing inside. The electricity's still on. You can still maybe visit one food court establishment that's left. We had one here in Seminole, Florida. I guess I gave away the exact place where I live, but whatever. I mean, we still have like 25,000 people that live here, but I do live in Seminole, Florida, which is basically St. Pete, Florida. It's in the peninsula of Pinellas County, but we did have a mall that was called the Seminole Mall that existed, and they tore it down somewhere around, I want to say it was like 2017 maybe, when they finally tore it down, and then they built this huge shopping plaza in place of it. But we actually had a mall tuck back there and nobody even knew it was there. That's why it died off. But they built it sometime in the 70s and it was a ghost mall for years. And I first moved to the area in 2005 and it was a ghost mall then, but it still stayed open for the better part of a decade. But anyway, those are videos that interest me a lot. I love urbex exploration channels, going to abandoned places like factories and power plants, very steampunk looking. I love all that stuff. Abandoned houses, something of which you might notice as a result of the 2008 housing crisis and the subsequent economic crash after that. If you are one of those people who just likes to look at random YouTube stuff, such as people randomly exploring abandoned houses out in the middle of wherever, there are some channels that they just stick to houses really, and that's the one that I really like looking at. But a lot of these houses, they will have a random calendar or maybe a bill or maybe something just laying on the ground somewhere in the house that will indicate when it was that they left the house. And a lot of the houses they stumble into have those dates around there, like 2007, 2008, in some cases maybe 2009. But yeah, it's just kind of interesting. Oh crap, they did have a seat open for that one. There we go. My apologies. I've been sitting out longer than I thought. If I sit out for an entire round of the blinds, then they kick me off the table. So if you understand the poker lingo, then you know what I'm talking about. It used to be 3 rounds of blinds, but now it's only 1 round. So anyway, this kind of might be my saving grace. I mean, the hours really fall off the clock when I'm sitting here playing poker like this, and they offer tournaments. They offer all kinds of stuff that'll just make time disappear. And even though that it's not technically against the law to go outside, I don't think anywhere in the United States right now, you really should be staying indoors as much as possible. If you have to go to the grocery store, go there for the shortest amount of time. Stay as far away from anybody as you possibly can. Get everything you need. Have a very strict list put together. Don't go casually shopping up and down the aisles because it may be only a matter of time before you brush into somebody who might have the virus, or somebody might cough on you or breathe in your direction, and you might just like that get infected, and then you're going to bring that home to your whole family. So definitely have a very strict list and have tunnel vision the whole time you're in the store. Don't let anything just pull you away from your objective. Get the hell out of there as soon as you can. But for me, I haven't been there yet. The last time I went was last Friday, and right now we're into Wednesday. This is Wednesday, right? Yeah, it's Wednesday. I knew it was Wednesday, but sometimes I kind of have to second guess myself. But so hopefully I won't have to go back in the foreseeable future. But there was a couple of things that I did not put on my list. One was salt. Another one was butter. Didn't even think about that. I bought a lot of boxes of macaroni and cheese in weeks past, and I didn't even consider the fact that I should have bought a lot of sticks of butter. So it looks like I will be heading back to the store. Plus, I stocked up on like 50 gallons of water in single-gallon water jugs over a period of time before this thing went crazy last weekend. But, oh man, I probably should have done something. 3 comes out. Nah, I'll probably bail on that. But I didn't really consider drinking other fluids like sodas, maybe Hawaiian punch, or other types of juices. Now, I do drink a ton of orange juice on a daily basis. I don't know what my fascination was with orange juice, but I love to drink it. I have tons of vitamin C in my system, and I think maybe that might help me with the virus if I catch it, because from what I've been reading about here and there, not what I've been discussing, but I did read somewhere randomly that vitamin C is really helpful when it comes to being very sick. I probably picked that up years ago, but yeah. So if you like to drink orange juice, or if you have vitamin C tablets, don't be taking them every day as a supplement. Hang on to them for a while. So that might just be something for you to consider. Let's see. So yeah. Oh, and speaking of which, blood type. Apparently, there was a study that was done in China, but how much can we really believe that's coming from China? Oh, there you go, Big Slick. If you watched this yesterday, these things are freaking. It's like a magnet to me. But I hate this hand. Most people, they'll go all in instantly with that, especially if it's suited like that. But anyway, blood type. So there was a study in China, and I won't break down the numbers too much because I don't have the article up. I'll just give you the gist of it. If you have type O blood, type O, you apparently have the blood type that seems to be most to be like the least affected from this virus. Like you're in the best situation if you have type O blood. It's not by a large margin. From like percentage wise, from oh man, I'm gonna bail. Percentage wise, from having the best type of blood to the worst type of blood when it comes to contracting the virus, it's only by a factor of like 7%. But the study that I read, there was something to the order of 35%. Okay, so they essentially broke it down to, let's say, 100 people. Now, don't quote me on any of this exactly because these aren't hardcore numbers, although the percentages are pretty close. But for example, there were 100 people that went into such and such Chinese hospital that had each individual blood type. Okay, so they kind of crunched the numbers and they just kind of pulled 100 random people out of it, I guess. And so if you had type O blood, you had a 20 or like 27% of those people who went into the hospital were type O blood, and those who had type A blood, that amounted to 35% of those who went into the hospital. So it seemed like by person to person, it seems like that I mean, if the numbers kind of speak volumes in some way or another, it appears as though that the virus might be more attracted to people who have type A as opposed to type O. I think that's kind of ridiculous. I don't really know if that how hardcore science that's really going to boil down to. I just thought it was an interesting read because I have type O blood, so I was just kind of thinking, yeah, maybe I'm a little more immune to the virus than most other people would be who have different blood types, but probably not. I don't know, but it's also kind of interesting because type O blood is the universal donor blood. So if you have type O blood, you can, like literally anybody with any other blood type out there. I think AB is the only exception. I mean, anybody can take your blood as a transfusion and they'll be fine. Now, if you have type O blood, you can't take anybody else's blood. You have to take type O blood. It's just something really strange about type O blood. I think, I mean, history, from what I've read, it seems that throughout history, type O has been the most dominated blood type, or the most foundational blood type. For example, a vast majority of Native Americans or indigenous, whichever nomenclature you want to go for, that they most generally have type O blood. And I think that's also a very common blood type in Asia. It might be just the standard blood type across the world. I don't know. But I mean, my daughter, she has type A blood. So she didn't get my blood. She got my ex's blood. So she has type A. So that made me kind of nervous reading this article that, wow, even though that I might be okay when it comes to the virus, and since I have type O blood, it might not be too bad off. I got to think about my daughter because I'm around her when I'm home, obviously. So anyway, I guess if you want to look into it, I didn't pull it up, so I don't have it at the ready right now. So just look it up. I don't know what you would even Google. Blood type coronavirus, maybe something might pop up or whatnot. But anyway, let me try to finish off these notes that I have here. I'm bailing on that. So let's see here. All right, so what do? We give everyone who is within a certain wage bracket X amount of money. It seems that's what they're wanting to go for. So I'm just randomly throwing numbers out there because I don't think that they've even determined yet. But if you make less than like $40,000 a year, you're going to be eligible for $1,200 per month, for example, and that's going to apply to everybody. Well, personally, I mean, personally speaking, if I get to keep my job, why the hell should I be entitled to any of this money? I don't think anybody who is still secured in their job should be able to touch any of this. Now, most people, including those who might be listening, may be thinking, "Awesome, that's like an extra $1,200 and I'm going to get from the government. Sweet, I could get this, get that, buy this, buy that, get a new flat screen TV, get a great, nice gamer's monitor for my computer or something." But see, you're thinking like a millennial if you're doing that, because you think that money is money. You don't think that it's backed by anything. You don't think that you think that if you have it's always going to be the way it is. But you're missing the bigger picture, because if the government prints too much money, inflation is going to ensue, and all of a sudden that bag of bread you're only paying $2 for right now. After all this is all said and done, a bag of bread might cost $10, and you're not making a dime more than you were making before this whole thing started. So I don't think that I think that if your job is protected under this circumstance of this widespread virus, I don't think you should be entitled to a dime, because it's not intended for you. It's intended for people who work with the public, work around the public, who cannot engage with the public right now because they might get infected and spread the virus way more, which would make this country way worse off. So I'm just going to check because I'm on a roll. Oh my God. Yeah. 4 spades. I might have to cut myself off if spade drops here. But yeah, I mean, if and me throwing out the $40,000 number, I know there's a lot of people that make more than $40,000 and they still live paycheck to paycheck, and I totally understand that. But there's a lot of people like servers who will never see that kind of a salary. Not all servers. I mean, if you work in the right restaurants, you could probably make a lot of money, but there are a lot of people out there. Like for example, like I go to the hair cuttery. That's where I go to get my hair cut. So I pay like $20 for my haircut, and I'm always generous with tips. I don't make much money at all. I'm not going to tell you how much I make, but trust me, it's not very much money. Somebody who's 35 years of age, I mean, I really wish I could be making a lot more. God, what do I do here, people? Oh, I got the highest pair, but he's calling heavy. I think he's got a 2 pair at minimum, probably nines. I'm going. I got to see what happens here. What they've got, they got me beat, unless they have an ace with a higher kicker than I had. I had an 8. Let's see what happens. He's gonna fold, so we're never even gonna know. Watch. Nope, we'll never know. So all right, damn it, they cut me off. So anyway, I don't, and everything is very preliminary right now. We don't know what the government is hashing out right now. They were throwing out numbers like, well, if you make $1 million a year, you're not going to be eligible for anything. So I'm sitting here thinking like, what, if you make $300,000 a year, you are going to be eligible for something? I mean, this thing has got to cap at something like 50 grand. And yes, I also understand that people who make 60,000, 70,000, 80,000 a year, they still live paycheck to paycheck. But you have to look at what you're paying for month to month. What are those things that you're going to be able to sacrifice to get that amount down into the 40,000 a year range? I mean, we're not even talking 40,000 a year. The government's not going to give you $40,000 a year just to survive because you're dealing with this coronavirus situation. I mean, they're going to give you a small percentage of what you're normally making. The HUD Housing and Urban Development in the government, they're saying that they're going to be postponing evictions and foreclosures for the time being. I think that's going until the end of April. So if this is affecting you to the point where you lost your job, they're at least alleviating that from you, although the burden falls on the person who owns the property that you're living in. So they're going to get hurt really bad in the back end. So anyway, this thing is just going to stretch out like crazy, like crazy, like crazy. But I hope they can figure out a system where they aren't going to be giving out money to people like me who will still be employed through all this, basically, because we're in talks right now. I mean, I took my desk plant home because there is a chance that tomorrow we're going to be sent home directly, like instantly when we come in. They're going to say, grab your computer, you're going home to work from home, and we're set up for it. So we're just waiting for the green light. I mean, a job like mine, who doesn't pay much at all. I mean, trust me, I'm not making 50 a year. I wish I was, but I'm not anywhere close. But it would, but I'm still going to be able to get that steady paycheck, and I work in the hospital industry. So even though I don't work in a hospital, I work for a network of hospitals. So my company's going to be okay. I mean, we're nestled in pretty tight with this hospital network, and it's a very vast one. I mean, we service close to 30 hospitals around the state alone. So I mean, I don't think that the government should be sending me a check. I hope they have those things in place where they can actually tap into the population of those who were displaced from work, and they can verify that, as opposed to just blanket checks to everybody who makes less than 50K a year, for example. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this? I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing here. I'm just calling it what I think that it should be, but who knows? Anyway, let's see here. Let me take a quick breather. Again, whenever you hear that's my vape stick. It's me taking a hit. You know what? I can make it straight with that. Why not? Why not match it up to 5? Here we go. 7910. That's a great start. I'll just check because I don't want to get too deep into this because I got a lot of stuff to talk about still. So let's see. So I got rid of that part. So we can compile a jobs list of those who were affected, and we can run the list through the IRS database. And another thing I thought of was maybe somehow, well, I guess that would be more for rationing. Like with rationing, wait, hang on a second. Okay. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Of course they threw out a 9. Of course they did. They cut me out of the straight. Meaning that anybody, like if a 6 or a jack comes out, everybody gets a straight. So I'm screwed. Obviously, I'm gonna fold that. But yeah, like if they're rationing food, for example, like what they did during the Great Depression, they gave out these little stamps that you could use. You can only use so many stamps per day, and you can only get so much food per day from certain places. But we're very technologically advanced these days, so I started thinking that, well, if it gets bad enough to the point where they have to make sure that you can only buy 1 bottle of sanitizer per week, for example, they should be able to keep you or cap you from buying more than 1 bottle per week anywhere in the state, because everybody knows you can cheat the system. If you go to Walmart, for example, and buy a bottle, okay, I got a bottle of my hand sanitizer, so I want to stock up on more. So I can't go to Walmart because they're capping me 1 per week, and they've got their own system going on. So I'll go over to CVS and I'll get 1 from them, and then I'll get 1 from Walgreens, and I'll get 1 from Publix, and 1 from Kroger or Winn-Dixie or whatever stores you live near, and you can just stock up going from store to store. But what they could do, at least in a statewide system, which I'm sure they're not set up for, but they could technically be set up for it, would be contracting through the DMV and doing a driver's license thing, basing it by address, not by person, not by social security number, but by your home address. Because if you go to Walmart and you get the only bottle of sanitizer you can get for the week, and that applies to every store in the state, well, you can just send another member of your family down to the store and they can get another one too. But not if they do it by the DMV. If they do it by your driver's license, it applies to your home address, not applying to you personally. So nobody in your house can get more than 1 bottle of sanitizer for the week. Now, I know that this sounds very socialist oriented, communist oriented, but when we're in this kind of a situation, you really have to make sure that there's enough for everybody. And nobody needs more than 1 bottle of sanitizer per household per week, for example. So I'm just saying that there could be a way to maybe flatten out the supply and demand in this sort of a circumstance by gauging it per household as opposed to per person, because people cheat the system all the time. I mean, come on, let's be real. Everybody At some point in their life, they find some way to cheat the system in some way, shape, or form, and it just happens. But anyway, but through the hang on here, fold. I know it's an ace. I know people who are watching this, they probably cringe every time I fold an ace, but trust me, aces are not that valuable to me. And usually by the time the flop comes out and they're big betting, I mean, I do understand that you can bet large having the ace, and you can cut those people out. They'll fold pre-flop who would have had that hand that would have taken you out, but that doesn't always happen. At least not in my case. But yeah, see, I would have had the highest card and a pair or two pair, eights and tens, but nobody's got anything. I would have won. Yeah, for sure. Whatever. So I guess in that case, I should not have listened to myself. But anyway, in this situation with the IRS, you can compile a list of jobs of people who are affected by this, who are displaced from work, and the IRS can compile this database, and they can start issuing checks based on that, because then they'll have what kind of a job you have, because the IRS will know, and they know how much money you're making. So they might be able to, take care of you in that way, as far as how much money you make, and they might be able to supplement enough so you can still stay alive, right? So you don't need your internet, you don't need your cell phone plan, you don't need a car to drive right now because you're supposed to self-quarantine, so you don't need to be paying your car insurance. Yes, it kills a lot of these industries. Like it really does a lot of damage to them. But when it comes to you personally, there are a lot of bills that you pay in your day-to-day life that you could easily do without and still stay alive. Okay, because right now the only thing you need to do is pay your rent, make sure your lights and your water is on. Even with trash, I'm sure there's some way that you can minimize the amount of trash that you create. Garbage disposals, for example, or you can, I mean, I know it's restricted in many places, my place included, because we're in the dry season right now, so we're not allowed to burn anything. But if you had paper-based stuff, I mean, in many parts of the country, you could just burn all your paper-based trash. And you can start a compost heap, which will help if you want to start growing a garden and start being more proactive in this environment. So anyway, it was just kind of an idea that I had, that the IRS can actually find out exactly what job you have, how much money you make, and they might be able to curtail to your needs financially with that regard, but not paying for your freaking internet or paying for your car payment, because right now that's not what's important. Right now what's important is food, water, and shelter. That's it. And definitely your well-being, of course, but hopefully those who have firearms, they don't have to worry about that because they have firearms. So anyway, let's see. Jobs lost, not on the list, can apply and be automatically approved. Basically, where I was going with that was that if they did compile a list of servers, people who cut hair, people who work in like an auto body shop, oil changes, and nobody's driving around to get their oil changed, like maybe they forgot the people who change oil. It didn't make the IRS list that they compiled. And you're like, well, wait, what about me? I was displaced just like anybody else in my industry. They forgot to add my name to the list. That's kind of what I was suggesting, that you could still apply with a certain form and like apply for financial assistance, and the IRS will approve it automatically, but then they'll look at it later to see if your job really did qualify for that. Because you got a lot of cheaters out there. A lot of people might technically still be employed, but then they'll pretend that they're not employed, in which case they'll game the system, and other people will lose as a result, or the entire country will as a result down the road. And the IRS can determine if your job that you lost is valid to qualify you for this financial assistance at a later time. And if you tried to cheat the system and they find out about it, and they find out that you were still employed, then the income that you receive through the government will later on be deducted from your future tax income, or the taxes that you're going to pay. So if you usually get a tax refund, well, the IRS is going to keep everything for X amount of years until you're whole on what you tried to cheat the government out of. These are all my ideas. This isn't actually happening. It's just something I was thinking about. So here's a couple of numbers that I came up with. Okay, so let's say that 100 million Americans across the country, and I know that's an overshot. It probably is. I don't know if 100 million Americans are going to lose their jobs. I mean, that would be like, what, a 50% plus unemployment rate? I doubt it's going to get that high. But let's say 100 million Americans get about $1,000 a month for 1 year. that would, by the entire bigger picture, would amount to $1.2 trillion that the government would have to supply to the American public for one single year. What if this thing lasts for 2 years? I mean, they're talking about a vaccine in as long as 18 months or more. They're saying that 18 months is more of a practical time frame. So, I mean, we're getting into a year and a half at that point. So, the entire GDP of the United States is about 24 trillion a year. I might be off by a little bit because I didn't look it up specifically, but I do know it's very close to 24 trillion dollars per year. And that's the combined output of the entire American population in terms of work being transferred over to money and production and all that. It all translates to about $24 trillion a year. So let's say that 20% of us lose our jobs. If 20% of us lose our jobs, and I'm not talking about what the government can supply to you in aid. I'm talking about your entire paycheck. So if you make 30,000 a year, 50,000 a year, whatever, if 20% of us lose our jobs, that would equate to $4.8 trillion that's lost in the GDP to our economy in just 1 year. Now, I know it's not scaled that way. I know that you got one single human being in the United States. His name is Jeff Bezos. He's worth 150 billion plus. After this is done, God, he's going to be worth, I mean, he might be a trillionaire by the time this is all over because everybody was rapid buying on Amazon. But I know that's not it's a very poorly calculated circumstance here, but hang on a second. I got kings here. Let's see what I'm going to do here. Ooh. I'll dance if they want to dance, meaning going all in, but let's see what happens. I think they're going to slow roll it. I don't think anybody really has much of face cards. Yeah, see, they're really bet 1,000. I'm going to clean out anybody who doesn't have a face card at this point. He has something, maybe. Nope, maybe. Nope. Holy crap, I just voted. The odds of somebody having a queen and betting the way that they're betting is, I would say, slim to none. So I'm going to go pot. They're going to fold. See what happens. Come on, Yichma. What are you doing, buddy? Italy. Oh, man, I feel bad for him. He's in the second worst place on earth for coronavirus right now. Brazil. Oh, man, I almost want him to win. Oh, okay, you know what? He probably has me beat with queens, but I might as well just donate to him at this point because, I mean, dude's from Italy. Good job, brother. Look at that. 4 of a kind, man. Dude is held up in his house for days and days. He'll probably be stuck in his house for weeks and weeks to come. And you know what? I don't do this too often, but I'm going to congratulate him. Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, anybody who's in Italy right now, could you imagine that? I mean, if you've been watching the last few of my videos on my channel, I mean, or if you've been watching the news, or if you've not been living under a rock, because if you're not working right now and if you're stuck in your home, what else are you going to do? Yeah, Italy is not doing too well. Italy's lost 17,000 people, I think. I think they lost almost 500 people just in the last 24 hours that have died because of coronavirus. It's insane. So speaking of which, I'll go ahead and get into some of these articles. Let's see. People must work if they lose their job, no matter what, even if it's for the government temporarily. Basically meaning that if we have to set up projects like Hoover Dam, for example, like if there's too many people displaced from work, we can't just keep giving them free money for not working. That's not a sustainable project. That's not something that we can do as a nation. We can't just be giving free money that we call stimulus money to people that aren't working. We cannot do that. The best thing that we can do in that situation, like in the Great Depression, the government will start giving out large contracts to the American public. You can sign up. Now we have the internet, so that makes it really easy. And it would say something like, calling all people in Florida who cannot work. We want to start doing marine projects. We want to build a new causeway across Tampa Bay, for example. Like we need 15,000 people for the next 12 months that we're contracting. If you all can get this thing built in less than 12 months, then you'll get a bonus. I mean, this stuff has been happening for decades. It doesn't happen anymore because of all the bureaucratic red tape, but it used to happen. Believe it or not, the entire United States interstate system, it's something like, like 25,000 miles, 30,000 miles of roadway across the the lower 48 United States that we built for the interstate system, do you know how long it took for us to build all that? It took about 30 years to build the entire United States interstate system. That's it. About 30 years. It blew my mind when I heard that. Because these days, I mean, okay, so just a quick example. So I live in Pinellas County. There's a highway that we call US 19. Oh, look at that. I won. That's cool. Ace Queen. I love that hand. I love that hand. So I live in Pinellas County. I don't live on. I live like probably about 5 miles away from US 19. And today it's a series of overpasses. It looks like an interstate. Like there's overpasses that go over major roads because that way that highway doesn't have to stop at any red lights. And that goes all the way up until you hit around northern Clearwater and you're getting into Tarpon Springs. That's when you start hitting traffic lights going north on that highway. Now, when I first moved here, many of those overpasses didn't exist. They were all under construction because US 19 back in the day, it was just a series of traffic lights. It was an absolute congested nightmare. Now, judging by back in the 1960s when they were building the interstate program, this whole stretch of US 19, including the 20 plus bridges that they had to build because of this, it probably would have taken them a couple years. Maybe not even a full year. But because of all the red tape, all the regulations, all the permitting, all that crap that we have to deal with today, it took them at least 10 years to complete that project. It took forever. And my God, what am I going to do here? 13,000. My gut tells me to bail. I'm bailing. They probably have Apple Jacks, an Ace Jack. Or if your hand has a Jack and an Ace in front of it, that would be a Jackass. 7-3, that's absolute garbage. Probably the second worst hand behind the 2-7 offsuit. So anyway, I mean, there's many things that we can be doing for our public who is displaced from work, and that would involve not the government giving our money away for nothing. It would be to supply work, because work equals money. And if we just give the money away for nothing, it's going to end up inflating like crazy, and it's going to affect everybody. Or the government can use that money and put them to work. Hey, would you like to have $1,100 just show up in your mailbox per month? Well, you're going to have to prove to us, and it has to be signed and verified, that you put in a minimum of like 80 hours for the month or something like that. Like you've got to contribute something. You can't just sit on your ass and play video games or listen to me talk, sit on YouTube or something like that. You've got to actually go out and be productive. You have to earn that in some way, shape, or form, because whatever you're doing, it's going to contribute to the advancement of our society, even if it's something as small as just picking up trash on the side of the highway. Whatever it might be, it's going to be something that you're earning. So that's enough of that. I mean, good God, how much time did I spend talking about that? Way too long. So anyway, let me go ahead and jump into some of these articles. I'm definitely not going to get all the way through, but I might as well get into some of these. I'm going to start with Clearwater Beach here because this just was announced, I believe, today. And this is courtesy of the Tampa Bay Times. So that's a picture of Clearwater Beach. That is the beach that I live fairly close to. Not the closest one. I live closest to Indian Shores, which is more or less connected to this beach, really. Gorgeous beach. Many times it has been voted the #1 beach in America for a number of years throughout the past couple of decades. So now the Clearwater City Council, they didn't want to wait for the governor of Florida. I'm kind of pissed off at Ron DeSantis right now because he really should be closing down beaches across the state. But I know what that does to our economy. For the Florida economy, that is absolutely devastating. We don't have state taxes because we have industries like tourism here. And if we get rid of that, all of a sudden our state's going to take a massive, massive hit. And it's not just people hanging out at the beach. It's hotels, it's restaurants, it's other attractions. But we have to fall in line like everybody else is around the country. I mean, we really do. I mean, New York City is talking about shutting down completely. So we need to get on board just like everybody else. And I don't know why Ron DeSantis is dragging his feet. And I just hit a 2-pair on the river, so I'm going to call him. And I won. Whatever. All right, so let's get into this article here as I fold that 2-3 off. So the city council voted on Wednesday to close public access for 2 weeks to Clearwater Beach, one of the nation's top tourist destinations, as a precaution to stem the spread of the coronavirus. The closure will take effect at 6 a.m. on Monday. So if you are in the area by any chance, or if you plan on being in the area, you have until Monday, which let's get it right on the calendar. So you'll have until the 23rd of March. Well, 6 a.m. on Monday, so you really have till the end of Sunday, the 22nd, to hang out on the beach before they close it. Honestly, I think it should be effective immediately, but I know they gotta take their precautions. They have to get the information out there. You know, it has to kind of trickle down to everybody who's here on spring break, who's too drunk to even look at their phones or too drunk to really care about anything that's going on. So anyway, the decision is a break from the unified stance reached on Tuesday between Pinellas County and city leaders to keep the public beaches open amid fears that thousands of tourists would be displaced to more susceptible areas like hotels and restaurants, and that restless residents would congregate elsewhere. But concerns over the spread of the virus prevailed, and I actually stand for that. I think they should close the beaches. Yes, it might be outside. Yes, it might be in direct sunlight. Yes, sunlight does tend to kill viruses faster, but you're still in a very crowded area where if somebody coughs, it's going to drift in the air for more than 1 second. I mean, they say that coronavirus can hang in the air without direct sunlight for up to 3 hours. So if you're in a really crowded beach area and somebody's coughing like crazy, they're probably going to spread it. Clearwater Beach made national news this week as photos of hordes of tourists crowding the shores went viral, and the city was inundated with criticism. Clearwater now joins Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Tampa as municipalities that have closed beaches to the public. Tampa, I mean, that's kind of loaded for Tampa to say that because they have very little beaches. If you look at them on the map, you might think they have a lot of beaches, but where you see the water line curving around the city of Tampa, most of that is downtown. Yes, they have Apollo Beach, and they do have Ben T. Davis Beach that's on the Courtney Campbell Causeway on Highway 60. They do have a couple, but not that much. So anyway, I understand. Tampa's a large city, so some people might not realize that Clearwater is part of Tampa. So I guess that makes sense that they would lob that in there. So anyway, I got a little bit extra here. I wanted to skip over some information that was just kind of quote filled. Earlier on Wednesday, Sheriff Bob Gutierrez sent deputies to visit all 35 miles of beaches in Pinellas County with letters urging hotel and business owners to adhere to state social distancing guidelines. The letters urged residents to police themselves so more drastic measures would not have to be enacted. Pinellas County Administrator Barry Burton said officials have not issued a countywide beach closure because they were relying on measures like enforcing state social distancing guidelines and prohibiting alcohol sales after 10 p.m. Now that's not a huge deal. When I first read that, I thought, oh my God, they're stopping the sale of alcohol at 10. But in Pinellas County, our countywide ordinance is midnight, so that's not a big deal. He said even though beach crowds are dissipating by the day, quote, what we saw on Clearwater Beach a few days ago cannot occur. And I even saw that inadvertently on the news when I was at work. When I was watching, it would have either been Fox News or CNN. They were showing pictures of Clearwater Beach being completely crowded with people. So I saw the same footage that they're talking about. So anyway, that's it for this article. So moving on over here. So in this whole coronavirus epidemic, the United States Navy Hospital ships are going to deploy to New York and to the West Coast to try to aid in this whole issue with not enough ICU beds being available in these massively crowded cities. And without reading the article, I did highlight a little bit of information, or not, maybe I didn't. Basically what it's saying is that they're deploying 2 right now. They might be deploying 2 ships to New York, and they're going to probably send 1 over to the West Coast. And they're not going to be using these ships to put coronavirus patients onto. What they want to do, they want to use these as hospitals for people who are either injured or they're sick with something that's not coronavirus. So they want to kind of use this as a safe haven for people who don't have the virus, who have to get medical attention. And they're going to hopefully ferry them into that ship where they can get the proper medical treatment without the risk of contracting coronavirus and then spreading it even further. So that's the gist of that article. Actually, that wasn't the next one. It skipped a little more. I wasn't supposed to click on that one, actually. Let's see here. Oh, this is amazing. Wait, hold on. Is that the one that I want to go with first? Yeah, I might as well go with that one first. This one's a little more peaceful. So in Italy, with all the craziness that's going on in Italy, check this out. The water in Venice, Italy's canals is running clear amid the COVID-19 lockdown. Take a look. as I check, because there's a lot of stuff out there. Oh my god, I had a freaking flush. Come on, man. I apologize, people. I got too wrapped up into this. See, this is why I shouldn't double doing this, because I don't pay close enough attention. I saw the king, I saw some red, but I just didn't look closely enough. My apologies. I did see that. I'm not a complete freaking idiot. If I had noticed what I saw, I probably would have bet at least 10,000. Probably even more, but I'm not watching their betting habits right now, so that was freaking stupid. I came in with 50,000, so at least I'm not down. Anyway, yeah, that was a giant gaffe on my part. All right, so this is really cool, though. I mean, I got wrapped into this because I've already seen these pictures. These pictures are amazing. I mean, that looks relatively normal for Venice, right? You know, yeah, you can see some color in the water, but I'm sure you always can see some color in the water. But what's really cool, and it's because like nobody is traveling right now. Clearly, there's nobody in the water. Look how empty that is. I'm sure on a normal day in Venice, all these boats are out in the water, tons of traffic, but there's nothing. It's empty, totally empty water. Not one boat. That might be one down there, but it looks pretty well empty. All these boats, they've all been covered up. They've all been stocked together. But look at this. You can see the ground. You can actually see like the dirt, the sediment that's settled. And look at that. That kind of blew my mind too. You can see the shadow of the boat floating in the water. That's how clear it is. And this is in a major city. And look at this. Look at this. Isn't that crazy how you could live in a city where your front freaking door, that's probably a back door, I would guess, but still, nevertheless, like your door into your house, like you could actually step onto the base of that step and get your feet wet because of this I assume it's saltwater canal that's going right by your house. That's just amazing. I mean, I love Venice. Venice is such a bizarre place, and it's so freaking old that they have rivers for streets. It's really cool, but crystal clear, crystal freaking clear. And look at this. You can see the seaweed. You can see, yeah, like that's probably not seaweed, but you can see the plant life just hanging out, and you can see all the way down to the bottom there with just the textures, or just the colors and the shades. It's really amazing. It's very cool. That's not worth trying to find a 7. Not to me. Some people might chase it, but I don't like one of those straight possibilities where it's just jammed in the middle like that. I like the open-ended straights. So yeah, very cool. That was probably the last one. Yeah, but I'm sure that there's probably image galleries that you could probably go to online where they'll show you a lot more than just 3 or 4 pictures. But wow, Venice waters are crystal clear. It kind of reminds me of that map, if you saw it, of China. It showed an emissions map of China, like carbon emissions that were emanating from China back in like October. And then they showed the exact same map, and it was something like the end of January or something like that, and it looked completely different. It looked like China just completely stopped doing everything, which they more or less did. So that is Venice, Italy. And this goes to the bad news of Italy, and that being that coronavirus has killed 475 people in Italy in a 24-hour period. And there are now 35,713 people that have been diagnosed in the country. Their testing kits are probably way more widely available now because they've been dealing with this for a lot longer than the United States has been dealing with. But more than 4,000 have recovered. So they're dealing with crazy high numbers. But when you look at the population of Italy as a whole, which I'm sure is like what, it's got to be at least 30 million people, right? I mean, I would think 60 million. So I was close. About 60 million people live in Italy. So when you're talking, why am I even looking at that? That's a clear fold. So when you're talking 35,000 people that are diagnosed in a country of 60 million people, I mean, that's an extremely small percentage. Yeah, I'll do it. I'm just going to round, though. I did it wrong, didn't I? I probably hit times, didn't I? All right, let me do this again. 35,000. Let me just make sure I got that number right. Yeah, 35,000 divided by 60 million. Oh, that's right. It's e to the negative 4. So it clearly it's a very, very, very small number. See if I can remember this. So it's like what? Like one decimal point and then two, three, four. So it's like 0.0005% of the population has been affected with coronavirus that they know of. So it's still extremely, extremely small, amount of the population, but still, it's enough to really make a really big deal. And what I'm worried about is that, yes, they're in lockdown. I mean, that's definitely going to help. But I mean, 35,000 sounds scary, but when it comes to pandemics, 35,000 is a very low number for a country of 60 million people. Now, if it hits like 1 million people or 500,000 people, that's a big deal. But the way that the news has been going, it sounds like that there might be a period of time where it may start approaching that 1% number. Hopefully it won't, but we don't know. I mean, we're all just now dealing with this. This really struck the heart of America over the last weekend. I mean, literally over the last few days when everybody started panic buying. The president declared a state or a national emergency, and he started deploying the National Guard, and now he's sending out medical ships, and it's scaring people. So people are panic buying. Unfortunately, they're all buying toilet paper, which is beyond stupid. But all right, I'll just leave that for later. I think I've already touched on that. Don't use like use a makeshift bidet or something or whatever. I don't know. Let's see. And by that I mean like I have a shower, or the shower head in my bathroom, like it has a hose attached to it, so like you can actually take it off of its fastener at the top, and you can actually use it and just kind of rinse yourself around. I think that was like a very 1990s kind of thing that they did, and my house is definitely very 1990s oriented, maybe early 2000s. I know that this house went into foreclosure in 2009, and the person that owns it now, my landlord, bought it around then, and I know he's done nothing to it because it looks exactly like it did back in around 2005 or so. All right, anyway, coronavirus live updates. I might not go very far past this because I did highlight a lot of stuff. They've probably updated this. This is one of those web pages. Oh no, they didn't. Okay, good. I guess you have to refresh it because I dealt with that last night where I it was either the last night or the night before where I highlighted a lot of stuff, but it scrolled away and I couldn't find it. And I didn't want to go digging for it. So, but this one I haven't refreshed it yet. So these are reported coronavirus cases in the United States as of today. California, 751. Washington, over 1,000 now. New York, look at this. This is the really scary thing. That's what really freaked me out. Washington was the first outbreak, but you get a place like New York where they're starting to approach 3,000 cases. And this is why they're talking lockdowns in New York City. The mayor wants to implement a lockdown within 48 hours, but the governor says that the mayor doesn't have the authority to. Only the governor can order a lockdown in a particular area within the state, and he says he has no plans to do so. So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of scary. And I live clearly in Florida because I mentioned it many times, but 314 cases so far. To put that into perspective, it was less than a week ago that we had somewhere around like 75 cases. So it is growing at a more rapid rate. Pretty scary. All right, let me take a breather here. Ace 8, suited. That's the dead man's hand, although it's not technically the dead man's hand. The dead man's hand is pertaining to Wild Bill Hickok back in, what was that, Deadwood? I think it was in Deadwood, where he was playing poker, but he was playing, I think he was playing Omaha because he had 4 cards in his hand. And he had 2 aces and 2 eights. And somebody came in, and probably the first time in his adult life, he wasn't facing the front door because he always made sure he did, just in case somebody wanted to come in and shoot him. He had his back to the door because he asked somebody who was playing cards if he could have his seat and take the empty seat, and he said no. So Wild Bill took the empty seat, which was facing away from the door, and somebody walked in and shot him. And when he was shot and killed, he had 2 aces and 2 eights, which since then it's been defined as the dead man's hand. But in not Poker Stars, but in Texas Hold'em poker, they kind of cut it in half, and they still call it the dead man's hand. Now, this isn't technically the dead man's hand because it was like an ace of spades and it's like a red ace and a black eight or something like that. I'm not 100% there, but if you really want to look into it, you can go for it. Actually, why not just go for it now? I mean, what the hell else am I doing? I'm stuck in my house. Let's see. Dead man's hand, Wild Bill. Let's see what this comes up with. Dead man's hand. There it is. Oh, it's all black. So it's the. Is it my hit? I'll call it. So it's all black. So 2 8s, 2 aces, like I said, but it's ace 8 of spades and an ace 8 of clubs. That's the dead man's hand. I'm not going to go into the history or anything. I mean, what I described was more or less accurate. I mean, I've read the story. I know the story. But yeah, there you go. That's the dead man's hand. Let's see. Pair of fours, not great. It's in the middle. We don't have the upper hand here with the 6. They probably do. I love 4s. I don't like. Let's go for it. Why not? I'm still over my 50. I'm still ahead. Famous last words for a gambler, right? I'm still ahead. Why not? See, in my case, that proved to be pretty good because now I got a 2 pair. I'm just going to slow roll him. Let's see what he's going to do. He's probably going to check. You checking or are you going to blow up? Let's see if he blows up. No, he checked. All right, this is when I blow up. I'm going to bet half the pot and see what he does. He's probably going to go all in and be like, hey, I got everything. Nope, he mucked. Boom! 23,000, 72,000 chips. He had nothing. All right, anyway. So there's a thing about Bill Gates, but I don't give a crap about Bill Gates because he doesn't care about us. So why even talk about it? And I'm sorry, these headlines are cut off, and it's because of my stupid highlighter. I guess let me see if I can fix that here by cutting. Yeah, see, there we go. That's much better. Why did I even highlight that to begin with? At 5 p.m., business jet maker Textron Aviation. Who's heard of Textron Aviation? Certainly not this guy. But they furlough thousands of their workers. Business jet maker Textron Aviation on Wednesday said it will furlough thousands of U.S. employees as the rapid spread of coronavirus hurts the aviation industry and other sectors. The maker of Cessna and Beechcraft airplanes. Okay, I've definitely heard of Cessna. And that's those like little small propeller planes that'll seat 2 to 4 people in them. Let's see. It said it will furlough workers on a staggered schedule from March 23rd through May 29th. The company declined to say how many it is furloughing, but a spokeswoman said it applies to, quote, most of its U.S. workers, which number around 12,000. So basically what she's saying is that it's going to be more than 6,000 people. And if you work for that company, I am so sorry. I really do feel for you because everybody's taking a hit for this. Let's see, the New York Stock Exchange. So this is pertaining to the stock exchange temporarily closing its trading floor. And it's going to move on to electronic trading because of the coronavirus. So the physical space of the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street is closing its doors. First time since 9/11. First time almost any of this has happened. All of this really has happened since 9/11. I mean, we even closed our border to Canada during 9/11, which is mentioned in one of these articles that I've outlined here, but not sure if we'll go into it. But just in case if I don't, the United States-Canada border is being closed except for traffic that's considered important or vital, which I would assume includes commercial transportation, trucks, semis, and things like that. But when it comes to the everyday person just wanting to visit Canada, it's closed. And the same with Canadians trying to casually visit the United States. You're not going to be able to after the next day or two. So the next article here, the Netflix CEO. Let's get rid of that again. Netflix CEO Reed Hastings talked with a European Union official about how to keep the internet running smoothly. This is probably something nobody's really considered too much in the news because if everybody's trapped in their house, they're not just going to be watching Netflix. People are going to be all over the internet, and that includes working from home, which is something that I might have to do in the short term. So when you do that, bandwidth is going to explode, and is the world prepared for that much bandwidth pouring into the internet at large? So the Netflix CEO, Reed Hastings, spoke with EU Internal Market and Services Commissioner Thierry Breton by phone to discuss how to keep the internet running smoothly as the coronavirus pandemic forces more daily activities to move online. Breton disclosed the conversation in a tweet Wednesday, suggesting users switch to standard definition when HD is not necessary. And I will absolutely heed that advice because, I mean, if everybody continues to watch the crystal clear, 4K, the highest crystal clear quality that you can watch on the internet just because you just feel like doing it, pretty soon you're going to start to see YouTube restrict all 1080p content or all 720p content, which is the lowest HD grade you can get. And then next thing you know, because everybody was being a bunch of douchebags and just watching these crystal clear videos when they really didn't have to, we're going to be all collectively living in a world where we're all stuck watching 360p videos, which looks like, like 1980s VHS tapes. So let's hope that the news will pick that up, because if the internet does hit this huge bandwidth bottleneck, they will start doing that, because to watch an HD video, even on your phone, that requires a lot of bandwidth. So definitely something to consider. You might be rationing your food, you might be rationing your water and your electricity, as you should, because if you're not working, you're not going to be able to pay your electricity bill, which means that your thermostat should not be 65 degrees if it's hot out. It should not be 80 degrees if it's cold out. You really need to start making some sacrifices to lower your monthly bills, because if the government's only giving you $1,200 a month, you're going to have to stretch that to the limit. So just some friendly advice words there. Do everything you can, and that includes the internet, because if they start throttling the internet to all of us, you might not be able to watch YouTube at all. You might only be able to revert back to the Web 1.0 era, back in the 90s AOL era, where the only thing that we really had access to were these only text chat rooms with no emojis, and these super basic websites that looks like Wikipedia, except that's what the entire internet looks like. Without good looking pictures, by the way, and zero video. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on here. It's still not good news. I mean, it really isn't, but I mean, it's better than what it looked like earlier, because I followed the stock market all day and it was starting to look just as bad, not just as bad as it did on Friday, but not Friday. Not when it hit 3,000 points last week, but when it was kind of flirting with a 2,000 point loss, and that's what it ended up hitting. I'll call it. Why not? I got the highest pair. I got aces. Excuse me. Oh my God, excuse me. I certainly apologize for that. It just came out. I'm sorry. I'm complimenting the chef. All right. I'll use that as an escape of an excuse. So anyway, yeah, the Dow Jones Industrial Average recovered some of its losses, ending the trading session with 1,300 points down. The index had dropped as much as 51 points, or 9.6% earlier in the day. The S&P 500 ended the session down 5.2%, and the Nasdaq Composite fell 4.7%. And this I don't have to remove. At 3:58 p.m., the U.S. is suspending visa services worldwide. And that shouldn't come as much of a shocker, but I'm telling you, all of these news articles are shockers. And look at this. Like this was 3:55 p.m., 3:58 p.m., two big news articles 3 minutes apart. This one was 2 minutes later. This one was 30 minutes later, talking about the internet being throttled possibly. I mean, it's just going on and on. The stock market's going to physically shut down for a week. Everybody has to go remote. I mean, this is crazy. It's just like minute by minute. It's just big bombshell after big bombshell. And here we are. So, oh, hell no. I'm folding that one. Are you freaking kidding me? Betting 4,000 chips with two ladies out there? Come on. Probably doesn't even have any. They're probably just bluffing. 7-8. It's not suited, but you can still get a straight out of that. 7-8's a pretty common. Either one is a common card to flop with. Might just get a random pair thrown down there. Might even get a 3 of a kind. That might be nice. Or trips. Trips. So, and it's absolutely garbage. I'm apparently full of crap. So, with this one, the Senate passes the relief plan to expand paid leave, so they finally got through with it. Freaking Mitch McConnell. That dude is it. I mean, I do lean right. I'm not right winger. I'm not like ultra conservative. I have very numerous amounts of liberal beliefs, and I think there's a lot of things like on the left side that our country could benefit from. But that being said, leaning more right than I do left, especially in today's political atmosphere, because the left side has gone, absolutely nuts. Mitch McConnell, he's always been so cringy to look at. I'm like, dude, just retire already, man. Like you're a freaking dinosaur. But anyway, the Senate has passed the votes, or has the votes to pass a bill expanding paid leave and unemployment benefits in response to the coronavirus pandemic, part of a staggering response expected in the coming weeks to avoid economic calamity. The bill provides enhanced unemployment insurance, ensures that businesses that have fewer than 500 employees after 2 weeks of paid sick leave to their workers, and includes increased funding for food assistance programs and guarantees free testing for the coronavirus. So hopefully there might be a little bit of a sigh of relief, but if we all know anything about the federal government, we know that they are extremely slow. So if somebody just lost their job this week, I mean, I completely can see where your nervousness would come from. I mean, I'd be biting my nails too, because the federal government, if they're going to approve something, I mean, President Trump, I mean, if you're nervous about that, you should at least take in some comfort that President Trump said that he wants this done now. Get it done now, right now. And for Mitch McConnell to wait till freaking Wednesday for this to happen, because the House did bust their ass. And they have a majority of the opposition party to Donald Trump, them being the majority of Democrats. They busted their butts to get this thing done by Friday of last week. And with it all ready to go, it goes to the Senate, and they freaking drag their heels like the Senate always does, whether if it's Republicans or Democrats. They drag their heels, and we're stuck here in Wednesday, just now getting the news that we should have gotten on Monday, but whatever. So as of 3:46 p.m., JP Morgan Chase says it will close 20% of its branches, which if you're reading ahead of my just my rambling, you already got that. But if you bank with JP Morgan Chase, I mean, hell, if you bank with anybody, that should make you nervous, because didn't that happen during the Great Depression? Like when the crash of 29 happened and all the banks just randomly started closing overnight? Largely, not even randomly. They all closed pretty much overnight. Nobody could get their money because all the banks closed. That's why banks are now FDIC insured. At least I believe so. I think that was its origin, because people didn't want to put their life savings into a bank that could just randomly close and keep their money and not have any consequences for it. So at least the government will step in and say, hey, if you want to invest at least $100,000 at most, I think it's insured up to $100,000. If you want to put up to $100,000 of your hard-earned money into our bank, the government will guarantee that that money is protected, just in case the bank happens to close its doors. JP Morgan Chase isn't closing completely, but closing 20% of its branches. I mean, so now we're seeing the banking industry, the tellers. We're seeing everybody who's involved in banking now taking a giant hit from this. 20% is not a small number. That's a fifth of their entire their of every single JP Morgan Chase bank out there in the entire country. And Chase is a huge bank. I mean, I hate giving out too much information on the internet, but my mother, she banks with Chase. I mean, millions of people bank with Chase. So for it to close 20% of its branches, that's going to be a big inconvenience, because if you have a susceptibility of getting coronavirus, and you're trying to protect yourself because you might have breathing issues, or you might be elderly, or you might not want to get out into the public areas very much, you're going to find yourself traveling even farther to get to your bank, which, by the way, if you're not getting paid right now because you're unemployed, you're going to have to use more gas to get there. Now, granted, they did say gas could get down as little as 99 cents to the gallon by later on this year, but still, that's not the point. If you're banking with Chase, you're going to have to drive farther. I mean, 1 in 5 people have to drive further to get to their branch to do business with them. But expect this to happen to all banks, because JP Morgan Chase is a giant bank. And if they're laying off 20% of their employment staff, you can definitely expect that this is probably going to happen to your bank as well. So I guess if you're a hard currency kind of person, look at that, Rockets. Of course he's going to win this. And he did. Would have been cool if a 2 came out, but yeah, if you deal with hard currency day to day, you might want to start hitting up their ATM. Otherwise, you're going to have to start hitting up other ATMs, which charge you out the yin yang for fees. Let's see. The crisis could inflict record-setting damage on the U.S. job market. Well, duh. I mean, I think we already know that. They've already made that abundantly clear. But the extent of the damage done by the COVID-19 spread has been hard to gauge so far. That will change over the next week or so when the Labor Department releases its tallies for weekly jobless claims. This Thursday's number reflects the period through March 14th, with economists surveyed by Dow Jones forecasting a reading of 220,000 or 9,000 above the previous week. But that reading will just begin to reflect some of the fallout. Wall Street insiders in subsequent weeks are looking for numbers that could approach the all-time record of 695,000 set back in September of 1982, a time when the U.S. was battling the runaway inflation that started in the late 70s. The worst of the financial crisis just missed that mark with a high of 655,000 in February of 2009. And moving on, the Census Bureau suspends its 2020 census field operations for 2 weeks. And I got my census in the mail today. It literally just came here today, and it is right here in front of me. And to prove it, I'll even read the letter. Dear resident, this is dated March 12th, 2020. This is your invitation to respond to the 2020 census. We need your help to count everyone in the United States by providing basic information about all adults, children, and babies living or staying at this address. Results from the 2020 census will be used to, and then I've got bullet points here, direct billions of dollars in federal funds to local communities for schools, roads, and other public services to help your community prepare to meet transportation and emergency readiness needs, to determine the number of seats each state has in the U.S. House of Representatives, and your political representation at all levels of government. Now, I do remember when the census first was proposed for the year, and the president, I think that's where most attention was gathered from this, but the president said that it would probably be a good idea for one of the questions on the census to say whether if you're an American citizen or not. To me, that sounded like a gold standard question. It sounds like it should have been on every single census since the beginning of time. Are you a U.S. citizen? Because that will determine if you're a taxpayer, if you are a registered voter probably, or if you can be a registered voter. I mean, a lot of that ties into whether if you're an American citizen or not, because if you're not and you're just here, then a lot of this stuff doesn't apply to you. I mean, I don't think that you should have representation in the House of Representatives if you're not even an American citizen. But I know a lot of people have strong feelings on the subject, but that's my personal opinion. I think that question should have absolutely have been on the census since day one, but apparently it has not been, and tooth and nail was fought over trying to get that question on the census, and it was denied or blocked, or I think the Supreme Court got involved at some point and they shut it down or whatever. And meanwhile, automakers are temporarily closing U.S. factories, all of them. Detroit's big three automakers plan to temporarily close all U.S. factories. Ford said it plans to close its factories in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico after Thursday evening and through March 30th. General Motors said that closing all North American factories at least until March 30th and will evaluate the situation on a weekly basis after that. Fiat Chrysler, which didn't immediately respond to a request for comment, also plans to close its U.S. factories, according to people familiar with the matter. The closures would affect 25 final assembly. Hang on. I noticed these cards were low, and I already had a low hand. Ooh. They're too high for me. The closures would affect 25 final assembly factories between the three automakers and 150,000 union workers, according to the UAW in each automaker. General Motors has 11 factories, the most between the big three, followed by Ford's 8 factories and Fiat Chrysler's 6. So I'm telling you, the dominoes are falling. I mean, this is going to be so bad on our economy. You think the 2008 crisis was bad? It is going to get nasty. I mean, the auto workers industry is now laying off not laying off people, but they are completely shutting down. Like nobody is going to be working there. And that is freaking scary because even during the Great Recession, people were still working in those industries. And now they're completely shutting down industries. I don't know, folks. This can get really bad really fast. I mean, if you have a really good talent, if you're really good at doing something, you might want to beef up on that talent and try to find a way to make money doing it. And I hope you didn't get your talent by going to classes, in liberal arts courses, learning about social gender studies or whatever the hell they're talking about right now, because that's not going to get you anywhere in this situation. I mean, honestly, if you're a carpenter, if you're a plumber, if you can use your hands, if you're good at working on cars or something, you might be able to get through this pretty well. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Or if you work in the medical industry, especially if you work hands-on in the medical industry, but that comes at a very high risk. So anyway, moving on. Danny Meyer's Union Square Hospitality Group lays off 80% of workforce. I'm not familiar with this company, but I thought since it was mentioned here, I figured I would at least give them a shout out because a lot of people that may end up listening to this, and by that I mean probably all 10 of you, you may have some dealings with this, or maybe not. But Danny Meyer's Union Square Hospitality Group laid off about 2,000 workers, citing a, quote, near complete elimination of revenue, end quote, due to the pandemic. Never could I have fathomed a time where the only path forward would be to lay people off so they can receive unemployment, while this company fights to see another day when we can return to our full staffing levels, which is what the CEO, Danny Meyer, said in a statement. The National Restaurant Association estimates that between 5 million to 7 million restaurant jobs will be lost over the next 3 months. That is a very, very, very big number. And like I said in a previous video that I posted, I'm just saying that restaurants, especially mom and pop shops, you could use your servers if they have driver's licenses. You can act, I know it's a liability, but in this circumstance, I would just have to roll the dice. It's either take the risk or freaking go bankrupt. Instead of having them serve tables, have them deliver meals. Have them deliver. Set up like a 2-mile radius around your restaurant. Anybody who wants to order from you, you could send your employees out there. But I did read this earlier today. There is an issue with my theory, and the issue is that other people who are ordering the food are trying to scrape by as it is. So when they do deliver the food and you pay whatever fee it is for them to deliver it, nobody is going to be tipping because everybody wants to save every dime they can because they might be the next ones out of work. So that therein lies a big problem. The only way that I could see getting around that is by the restaurant owner insisting on a predetermined tip amount that they charge the customer's card on before the meal gets delivered. And that happens all the time in restaurants, especially when you have large parties. They always have those like 15% gratuity minimums. I think it's usually 18%. But I mean, that's not out of the norm of regular when it comes to society going out to eat. I don't know. I mean, we might just have to get used to that. But if not, I mean, I don't know. This stuff's getting crazy. But experts recommend suspending fertility treatments. That's pretty crazy. So they're talking about suspending that. That's about all I'm going to cover on that, just because it's not as dire as millions of people losing their jobs in the restaurant industry. I'm just saying, now's not the time to be dealing with fertility treatments. To say the very, very least. I mean, talk about first world problems, and we're not dealing with first world problems right now. Right now, we're starting to knock on the third world's door, okay? And it may not seem that real because we're so early in, but come back to this video in July or August and then listen to that again and see if you agree or not. Because I have a feeling that you probably will agree way more than you might now. And the big one that I was waiting for, as I have the high pair here, just floating along. They keep betting 500. Let's see what happens here. As you read ahead, that I'm going to talk about anyway, if you don't care about poker. Come on, dude. Whatever. At least I split. Better than losing. The biggest United States mall, which is Simon. I know Simon Property Group. If you live around a Simon Mall, you know, because don't they have those like little like flag banisters that they put on the like the street lamps around the parking lots that says Simon on them, like the red with the white lettering. But anyway, the biggest mall owner in the United States, the Simon Property Group, announced it will be closing all of its malls and outlet centers in the country, effective at 7 p.m. until March 29th. Quote, the health and safety of our shoppers, retailers, and employees is of paramount importance, said the CEO David Simon in a statement. Simon is the first U.S. mall owner to take such a broad sweeping effort, as retailers altogether have temporarily closed thousands of locations in recent days. The the big one that we deal with is I'm trying to think of the big mall here. It's the Countryside Mall. It's Westfield. That's what it is. The company that owns our big mall in our area is called Westfield. So I'm more eagerly waiting to see if they are going to close their malls. And that is a really busy mall, which is kind of funny when you're reading this because in most cities around the country who are dealing with um, who live around a mall, their mall's probably dead unless you're in a rich area. But the mall we have Tyrone Square Plaza, which or Tyrone Square Mall, Tyrone Square Mall. Damn it, I lost that one. Tyrone Square Mall. That's in St. Pete. That's on. It's off of 22nd. Let's see, 22nd Avenue North and Tyrone Boulevard. But it's a busy mall for its size. I mean, I would say relative to its size, it's probably one of the busiest malls in the country. But then there's also the Countryside Mall, which is really big. It's two floors. It has a giant ice skating rink in the middle of it. Excellent mall to visit. It's a lot of fun to go to, and it's always really crowded. But it's owned by Westfield Corporation, Westfield Incorporated, whatever they're called. But not sure about Tyrone Square. I'm just talking about my area. But if you live around a Simon Mall, and if that's the big mall in your area, it's going to be closed until the end of the month. So maybe even beyond the end of the month. So that was a kind of a big thing that I was waiting to happen. I wasn't surprised when I saw it. I was just waiting for that to come across, and it finally did. So Delta Airlines said that the March revenue fell by nearly $2 billion in the month of March. Damn, they make a lot of money. Let's see here. Oh man, two pairs. You know what? I'm just gonna call it on the turn. And let's see who plays ball here. Because I might up them on this final one. Yeah, see, he's still milking the five. If that's still the same guy, I haven't even been watching, but ooh, what am I looking at here? Damn, I got an 8-10. He could have a king. Does he have a king 10? I doubt it. I'm doing 3,000. Let's see what he does here. He's probably gonna fold. I guarantee you he's got a king. He had a king. He had like a king 7 or something. Guarantee you he had a king. So let's see. Uh-oh, my cats are hissing. They're playing. I have two cats, by the way. They play all the time. I have a black cat who is really strong. She's like full on muscles. And then I have an orange tabby who is extremely fluffy. Not extremely. She's not poofy fluffy. She's just thick-haired fluffy. And she's more the submissive. Every time they play together, she instantly goes on her back. And Lana, my black cat, she's always like standing over Livy, orange tabby. They're hilarious. Anyway, let's see here. Merrick, CEO, calls on all Americans to take precautions. He's the chairman of the CEO of the pharmaceutical giant. Is appealing to every American to take coronavirus precautions for the benefit of society. Right now, we have the power as citizens to slow the spread of this virus. That's what he said. Let's see. This is what we can do, or that's what we can do in the next weeks, months, etc., to ensure we actually don't have the kind of situation that we saw in Italy, that we do see in Italy. So he's pretty much saying, like, if stuff gets out of hand, we're not going to have enough pills to fix everybody, especially when China is threatening to cut us off. But you know what? I might as well just end it there because I almost want to go on a rant just for that alone because, I mean, China, they got a lot of nerve to want to cut us off from pharmaceuticals, especially in this situation where they're the ones that started this whole thing. I'm not going to blame them completely at the start of it, but you know what? I will blame them. It is completely their fault because I'm sure the reason why the virus got out of hand was because they don't have the food regulations that the first world has. I mean, they've got bat cages sitting on top of ferret cages, and they're selling all these animals as as food. Now, I'm not saying that you can't eat a ferret and you can't eat a bat. I'm not saying that. I know that there are cultures where they just that's just what they do. And China being such a massive country with billions of people, they got to do what they can to eat, but you could at least regulate the system. I mean, if you have bat cages that are pooping their droppings down onto ferrets, I mean that, and then they go and they eat the ferrets from that had bat droppings all over them that they got in their mouth, which got in their system. You might end up getting some crazy weird virus out of the situation, which is more or less maybe where coronavirus came from. Not from a ferret, but they're saying it might have come from a bat, but it's probably not the bat population that we should be blaming. It's probably their food regulations, like the food industry, the USDA that we have here in the United States, where we regulate the quality of the food that we serve. Now, a lot of this stuff they serve live still, like you buy it in the market or they kill it and they just lay it out as roadkill the same day. But I mean, this whole virus situation, it started in China. That's where it started. Okay, it started there. And the government is very hush hush. They're very closed up. They won't tell us what's going on. This thing got out of control. They didn't tell the world what was coming. And instead of asking the world for help when it did get out of hand, they didn't. They kept it to themselves. And today, are they regretting that they should have done other things, like maybe inform the world? No. Instead, they're kicking out American journalists. They're taking away their credentials and they're kicking them out of the country because they're reporting a little too heavily on certain issues in China than the Chinese government would like them to report on. So when all of this stuff is all said and done, I mean, the American economy is going to be way worse off than it is today. I mean, we're going to be, a recession, if we're lucky. I would say we'd be in a recession, but look at the rest of the world. Wherever we're going to be when this is all said and done, I would say America would, at least I would hope so, would still be the most prosperous and richest country in the world when this is all said and done, more or less. And everybody else is probably going to be worse off. But if China is better off than anybody when all of this is said and done, and they think that we're just going to dust off our hands and just get back to business the way things were, just keep at it with China and keep producing everything in China because of cheap labor, they got another thing coming. I think they got a world war coming at them. I really do. I think that once this is all said and done, I think everybody's going to turn their head straight to China, and we are going to be, I don't know if we'll be out for blood, but we're going to be out to take back all of our industries, all of our economy. And I think China is looking at a future that's going to be spent in the dark ages because they really screwed up. Not their people, but their government. And honestly, if we go that hard after China, and if we're attacking China, maybe not militarily, but if we're attacking China financially to the point where we're going to cripple their economy completely, the people are going to suffer heavily. I mean, the government's going to make sure of that. The people are going to suffer the worst because the government, they're in government, so they're going to be all right. They're going to take care of their own. But now they're going to suddenly have to worry about 2 billion of their citizens that have been living in the worst conditions imaginable, that's been taking crap since coronavirus broke out and even decades before then. And hopefully they will learn to uprise and they will go up against their government and will completely change the face of China forever after this. Because, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm getting too conspiratorial, maybe I'm getting too far in the weeds on that, but I think that there's going to be something big that China's going to be accountable for, or not something big they're going to be accountable for, but they're going to be accountable for this situation. And it might take a year, it might take 2, 5, hopefully not that long. I doubt it will. It'll probably by the end of this year. I would say by the end of this year, after President Trump just railroads over this coronavirus situation, gets us through this really terrible situation that we're in, gets the economy roaring again, everybody's going to be staring at China. Hopefully the stupid fake news media will stop talking about stupid Russia crap, and maybe we will finally get together with Russia like we did back in World War II and World War I, and hopefully we will still have the alliance that we had back when we were considered the Allied nations. Do you remember that? Before the Cold War, Russia was an allied nation. We can all gather together and go straight after China and make them pay for what they did for all of our citizens, getting all of us sick, locking us in our houses, putting us out of work, killing off our senior citizens, forcing us to fight for food in a supermarket, force all these complete total idiots out there who were trying to gobble up all the toilet paper that was left. All of this stuff. The chickens have to come home to roost, and we need to go straight after China after all this is said and done. Now, I know that's way too far ahead from now. I know we got to worry about the here and now. We got to worry about survival. We got to worry about prosperity to get through this and still come out strong. And I know we will. We always have. If you look back at back during the Great Depression, I mean, that's why I highlighted that first at the beginning of this video. There are things the government can do. Instead of giving out the money for free to people just to sit on their ass and do nothing, instead the government can say, look, if you don't have a job, we have one for you, and we will pay you for it. It won't be the same that you were making before, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so anyway, I'm pretty much done reading news articles. Oh my God, I'm so done reading them. And look how far I got. Like, how many did I X out of? Like 3? Let me just read the highlights. Not even the highlights. I'm not even going to go that far. No way. All this stuff I highlighted. I spent all this time doing this. I'm not even going to do that. I'm too tired. It's already 9:45. Good grief. This one is, I believe it's an article that tells you, like the difference between the flu and the coronavirus. Yeah, the coronavirus, cold or flu. Just Bangor Daily News. Or if you want, you could just, copy that phrase and you'll come right up with it. Don't scratch up my ground. Let's see here. 5, 6, 7, pair of fives. I'll check. This one is pertaining to Metro Detroit nurse voices concerns as she cares for coronavirus patient. So apparently it's bad enough for them to write an article about, and for me on the other side of the country, them up north and me down south, to actually catch it and see it. So apparently if you catch coronavirus, in some cases it can be pretty bad. So, and they go over prevention and treatment, and I'm sure some other things that I skipped over, how it spreads and things like that. So that's on clickondetroit.com. And this other one here on the Washington Post, probably extensive. Yeah, they always have multiple article things that I look up, but let's see, live updates. But yeah, the coronavirus countries adopt increasingly strict measures amid coronavirus outbreak. U.S. and Canada border closing to, quote, non-essential traffic, which I've already talked about. The U.S.-Canada border is closing. If you want to visit Canada, or if you live in Canada and you want to visit here, it's a no-go until this is under control. I'm sure they'll still ship food. I'm sure they'll still ship supplies back and forth, but non-essential travel, it's not going to happen. Coronavirus pandemic, which politicians and celebrities were affected. This is such a bogus article. I shouldn't even waste a second on this because I could give a crap's less. But the Brazil's national security advisor has coronavirus. Israel's ambassador to Germany has coronavirus. The head of Japan's football association does. A minister in the United Kingdom's health department. The Iranian vice president has coronavirus. The wife of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tested positive for coronavirus. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's wife does. The Spanish minister, I assume that's the minister of Spain. The French culture minister. Let's see. Miami City's mayor has confirmed that they have coronavirus. The press secretary for Brazilian president, you fill that in. I don't want to mess up his name because I have a crazy last name, Spathon. That's not my last name, but I do have one of those weird last names that's similar to the one that I chose for my channel. Anyway, Poland's environment minister Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson, we already know that. We couldn't give a crap less. Honestly, I have a conspiracy theory as to why they got infected. I think they did it on purpose, just so they can have the top best of the best medical care that they could possibly have while they caught it early on. Because if they were in the middle of the thick of it, millions of people were diagnosed and hospitals were turning everybody else away. They didn't want to have to be in that situation where, oh my God, we got to go to the overcrowded hospitals. I hope they'll take us. I mean, we're not, I know we're celebrities, but they're not, they're not letting celebrities in anymore. Probably a big conspiracy theory, but I wouldn't kick that out of the door either, though, because these Hollywood elites are freaking insane. But just my own personal opinion. Anybody out there in the Twitterati audience listening to this, don't quote me on that, please. The best-selling Chilean writer has coronavirus. The British actor and musician Idris Elba, whatever. I don't know actors very well. Christopher Hivju. I don't watch Game of Thrones either, by the way. Have you noticed? The 41-year-old Game of Thrones actor has coronavirus. And let's see, this 86-year-old Afro jazz singer has coronavirus. One of the Ottawa Senators players has coronavirus. Hockey team. 4 players on the NBA Brooklyn Nets basketball team has coronavirus. Probably after one of them, I think it was on that basketball team, I could be wrong, correct me in the comments if I am, but somebody who was given a press conference a couple of weeks ago, he not only said he didn't have it, but he started like fingering up all the mics, and then he stepped up and he walked out of the room, and that exact same person tested positive like a day or two later, which was hilarious. So anyway, that's all I had for that article. I'll always block. Oh, you must turn off your ad blocking software. What is this? The News and Observer? Alright, yeah, I know. Let me just take care of business here. My apologies. Alright, now we come back to your regularly scheduled programming. As I find my... Oh, there it is. Okay, so Amazon will hire thousands of people to meet coronavirus demand amid surge in North Carolina layoffs. And if you shop on Amazon, you probably know by now, if you didn't watch my video last night, that Amazon is only shipping out what they call important items. So you can't get ridiculous things on Amazon anymore. Like you can't get toys, and you can't get trinkets, and you can't get just these, little whatever kind of things, like, maybe a neck massager or an airplane pillow, or you can't get any of that anymore. Now it's only pertaining to things that are actually important to human life that they are shipping out, according to the article. And I'm taking that very vaguely because they weren't specific as to what they were shipping. It just sounded like just essential things that people would need. Maybe like medicine or something that has to do with, I don't know, essentials in some way, shape, or form. Maybe fire extinguishers or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's cool. Amazon's employing more people. Obviously, they're not going to get hurt from this situation because everybody's buying online, because nobody can go to the store and shop because they're being advised not to, although most people still are going out. Definitely, if you don't have to go out, please don't. Stay inside. Do what I'm doing. Become a hermit. Just waste your time on YouTube if you have to, and on PokerStars. Anyway. I'm not endorsing them whatsoever. If you didn't watch the last video, I'm not endorsing PokerStars in any way, shape, or form. I've been on here since 2006. It's the only one I have my chip stash on, so that's who I play on. And I don't pay anything for it. It's free. So I'm not even playing for money. I'm playing for play chips. So let's see. Wasserman Schultz slams Florida governor over sluggish response to coronavirus. I'm not going to get into that because it's a little bit of information, but yeah, I am in disagreement with our governor because he is trying to protect the Florida economy, and I am strongly in disagreement for that, reluctantly, because I love not paying state taxes because the tourists do it for me. But we're in an epidemic right now, so we need to close beaches, we need to close restaurants, we need to close all this stuff, and then figure out what to do with the workforce that's been displaced in the meantime. Such as, if the government's given out free money, quote unquote, they need to put these people that are taking this free money to work, just like they did in the Great Depression. And yes, absolutely, if I was in that boat, I would wholeheartedly take up some work just to get paid, just like anybody else would. It's just that in today's society, especially with the stupid millennial generation, which I can say because I am a millennial, they don't want to go out and work if they're expecting the government just to hand them free money. Well, they should be given a really, really rude awakening, especially if there's any of those Depression era people left out there. I mean, I know they're very vulnerable right now. You don't want to be in any contact with them, but if you could listen to them, they would say, look, get your ass up and then go to work, bust your butt doing something, pick up trash if you have to. So, anyway, this article here, NBC News' Richard Engel takes heat for saying coronavirus is a bat virus, not a China virus. I'm not even going to get into that because they were slamming President Trump for calling it a Chinese virus or a China virus or whatever. They were saying, well, you're racist for saying that. That's racist because the virus doesn't speak Chinese, so you must be a racist. I'm like, come on, give me a freaking break. You know what? China kept this away from the world. Now the entire world is dealing with it. And China could have really stopped a lot of this from happening by communicating to us what we were in store for, and they decided not to. So as a result, I think when this is all said and done, we should come after them as the entire planet. We should come all the way after China, full force, and absolutely just dominate them in every way, shape, or form at a very minimum with regulation. Regulate everything that's going on in that government because clearly if this thing gets blown out of proportion as it did in China and they didn't tell the world about it, the world needs to get involved. So this is coming out of Philadelphia, which I thought was absolutely insane. Philly police is going to halt narcotics arrests and other charges during the COVID outbreak. Narcotics arrests, I mean, if you get popped for like a gram of meth or heroin or something, let them go. I mean, come on, it's a gram. Seriously? I mean, an addict is an addict. They're going to have it, all right? There's no point in jailing them for a year for something that they just want to do with their own time. You shouldn't, I mean, the government should not have any say over what somebody wants to do with their own body. I'm not even going to get into the whole abortion thing. That's a whole nother matter because I'm more pro-choice, or more, not pro-choice, but more pro-life on that issue. But when it comes to drugs, if somebody wants to take drugs every day, I mean, millions of people drink every day, okay? How is that different from taking a bump of meth or smoking a hit of meth or something? I know meth is much more dangerous. I know it turns people into burglars, does a lot of crazy stuff, but I know I was weighing it. Anyway, look at this stuff though. This was an official letter put out by the city of Philadelphia, and it started yesterday. This is the list of things. Okay, so what they're going to do, and you could read the list here. If you live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and you commit one of these offenses, anytime between, anywhere between 4 o'clock p.m. and 12 o'clock a.m., you will not go to jail. Instead, you'll be given a summons to go to jail. So if you want to vandalize anywhere, or if you want to burglarize somebody's house or business, or if you want to steal out of somebody's car, or if you want to waltz into a store and just snatch a bunch of stuff, or if you want to steal from somebody, which I think should be considered robbery, or even a stolen auto, if you want to go around and start stealing cars. Just if you live in Philadelphia, just do it after 4 o'clock. Anywhere between 4 o'clock and 12 o'clock in the morning, you can steal whatever car you want and you won't even go to jail. They'll give you a summons to appear later on. So once they write you that summons, they'll cut you loose. Just hang out for another hour or two, and I guess you can just try for the next auto, right? Because that's basically what they're telling us. They're telling you that if you commit any of these crimes, it's all right. You don't have to go to jail, even though a lot of these are dangerous crimes, especially as far as the victim is concerned. But, don't worry about it if you're the criminal because you don't have to go to jail. Absolutely preposterous. I know they're trying to get people out of the jails, so not trying to pack it full of people because of coronavirus. They don't want it to spread because prisons tend to be one of the worst places for people to be during times of outbreaks because it will spread far and wide very, very quickly in prison institutions. But this is not what you do. You don't give criminals a green light and give them an itemized list of what they're allowed to do at an exact time frame from 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Are you freaking kidding me? What the hell is wrong with these people? It's a Democrat city. That's probably why. It's a liberal run city. Because they think, oh, well, this is only going to help everybody. No, it's not. This is going to make it extremely, extremely bad. Way worse. That's just my opinion. I think that was like the dumbest boneheaded thing they could have put out. Here you go. Here's a list of stuff that you can do against the law and you could potentially profit from if the police don't catch you. But if they do catch you, never fear, you won't go to jail anyway. We'll let you go, and as long as it's within this 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. hour, you can commit the exact same crime again, and we still won't take you to jail. Like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Now, I didn't read every single word of this, so maybe like if you get caught doing it again or a second time, third time, fourth time, maybe they'll take you to jail, but dude, you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for trouble. More than 200 inmates have been released in Ohio. I know this is in Ohio since Friday due to concerns over the coronavirus. So they're letting people out of jail, but I think most of them are like simple drug possessions and stuff like that. So that's a good thing. I mean, they're not letting murderers out, obviously. Democrat primary. Don't really want to get into it because I don't really care. Joe Biden won. Bernie Sanders lost. Joe Biden swept all 3 states. Bernie Sanders is talking about possibly conceding. He's going to discuss the situation with his campaign, and he might end up dropping out of the race. And I put a lighthearted comment on YouTube somewhere saying that, maybe it's possible if this epidemic gets bad enough, maybe Joe Biden, by the instruction of the Democratic Party, maybe Joe Biden might concede to Trump before we even vote for Trump again. I mean, probably not, but you never know if it gets bad enough. Maybe they'll say, Donald Trump, he's in control right now. Like, we're not in any position right now to hand over the reins to a completely different human being. If this person is already in control of this chaotic and crazy situation, it might just be in our best interest for him to just cover this for the next 4 years since he's so deep into it already. That's just my opinion. And I'm sure the American public is going to see it they're going to see it the same way that I'm seeing it. So anyway, I'm not going to get much into that. And we already went over that. Italy's population. So that's all I'm left with. I'm just left here playing poker. And I'll go over that in the next video. I know that's starting to stretch into the old news area, but that's going to eat into like another 20 minutes of me talking. But all right, so that's it. That's all I got. So if this video is going to continue for any longer period of time, you are welcome to leave if you haven't left already, which I'm sure you have, because yeah, today has just been kind of a whirlwind of a zombie-like day because I only got like 4 hours of sleep last night. My cat Lana woke me up at 2 a.m. like she always does. Yeah, so I'm really tired, and it's 10 o'clock, so I'm just like, whatever. My alarm is set for 5:40 in the morning, and when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is get out of bed and stretch and take a hit off my vape stick, and then I go into the living room and I roll out my yoga mat, and I do 25 minutes of yoga. And it's because I have a herniated disc in my 4th lumbar that I've been dealing with since 2015. So yeah, and I recently found out that yoga actually helps a lot. I can't believe how much it helps. I mean, I've been in agony for like 4 years, and then I discovered yoga. And I was like, holy crap, I can finally sit in the car for 10 minutes without my back killing me. So that's really nice. And if anybody has any tips for that, I mean, God, it would be a godsend. I mean, I would almost become your slave voluntarily if you have any suggestions for sitting in a car for at least an hour and a half. If I can sit in my car for an hour and a half and not feel any back pain, and again, this is my 4th lumbar. So, it's a few vertebrae from my tailbone. But if I could sit in my car for an hour and a half and not feel any pain, I would be eternally grateful. So yeah, feel free to take advantage of the comment section below, but chances are whatever you're going to say, I've already tried, because I've tried tons of things. I've bought stuff on Amazon. I've bought therapeutic pillows. I've bought those tailbone pillows that have like that little etching around where your tailbone would be. I've laid my seat all the way back. I've laid it all the way straight up. I've leaned it 45 degrees, 30 degrees. I mean, like everywhere in between. Right now, my seat is so far down I can hardly see up the dash or across the dashboard. So, And I've got towels. I've got like 3 towels wrapped around my top seat, and then I've got one towel that I have draped across the lower part of my seat that I sit on. I don't know. I've tried everything. I've tried rolling up towels and using that as lumbar support. Nothing works. It doesn't work. I think what the real problem is I drive a tiny little I drive a tiny little coupe. It's a 1999 Mirage, and I think that's the issue. And it's a stick shift, so I have to use both my feet. So I can't use like one leg to maybe cross over the others, because that's what I do when I'm at work. It really helps sitting in an office chair with my back, that I cross one leg over the other, kind of say girly style, I guess, whatever the hell you call it. But for some reason, I don't know, it helps my spine. I don't know why, but it does. And I get by throughout the day. All right, ladies and germs, no puns intended, but what am I dealing with here? 568, 456. Not even close. Not even close to that. No way. I am not going for that. No way. But anyway, I might grab a refill before I turn in for the night. What is it? 10:04 p.m. I got probably about 10-15 minutes. All right, I'll play a few more rounds. I think I'll pause this for a second. Let me go get me a refill, and I'll turn in for the night. I want to get into bed before 11, because last night I went into bed at 11. I was freaking tired as hell today. So, will this tell me how long this has been on for? I don't know. Let's see here. No, it doesn't. Oh, wait, yeah, it does. And wow, almost 2 hours. Look at that. Almost 2 hours. So, yeah, anyway, let me go ahead and pause this real quick. I'll be right back. And through the magic of technology, I am back. And it's been like a minute. But, yeah, so this is the first time in the first few videos that I've made for this. I don't know, I would call it a mini-series at this point. I have done one podcast in the past. I mean, I wasn't even going to mention it, but since I'm sitting here being bored playing cards, might as well just give it a plug. But it's called Disappeared, the podcast series. And if you just type in Disappeared, the podcast series on YouTube, it'll probably pull up all my videos. But it's on a channel called Benjamin Thomas, and it's just kind of a pen name that I came up with. I actually wrote a book back in 2007. I won't plug that because I used my real name for that one. But yeah, I just decided to go with just some, random, just generalized name. And on that one, it's a podcast about people who have disappeared and they've never been found since they disappeared. And I go into detail, and it's nothing like what I'm doing here. It's just all audio based, and I just find articles over the years that have been involved with these people's disappearances. And probably the two most famous ones that I covered was Tammy Lynn Leppert, who was a Floridian who disappeared back in 1983. And she was in the movie Scarface, the 1983 Scarface with Al Pacino. She was one of the beach chicks at the beginning during the chainsaw scene. She was leaning into the car with Manny while he's down there in that old beat up convertible, and she was the one with the blue bathing suit on. She ended up disappearing like a month and a half after she was on that show, or in that movie, and she's never been seen again. So that got a lot of attention. I mean, a lot relatively to, what I'm used to seeing in my channels, but it got maybe 8,000 views or something like that. I was shocked when I saw that. And then I did Michelle Miscavige, or Shelly Miscavige, who is David Miscavige's wife. And if you don't know David Miscavige, he is what do they call him? The chairman of the board of the Church of Scientology. And his wife has not been seen since something like 2007. I think she attended a funeral, and I think the funeral was in 2007. And prior to that, she hadn't been seen for like a year and a half or something like that. And a big part of the reason why Leah Remini, who was on King of Queens, the hot chick on King of Queens, she was a Scientologist back then, a really close friend of Shelly Miscavige, and she attended Tom Cruise's funeral, and she went up to David Miscavige and said, "Where's Shelly?" Or no, she didn't go to David Miscavige, but she was asking, close friends of Shelly's, like, "Where's Shelly? Where's Shelly? She should be here." And they're like, "I don't know, we haven't seen her." And a couple of security type fellas went up to her, Leah Remini, after she had been asking around, and they said, "Hey, you better keep your mouth shut about her." She's like, "Well, why? Where is she?" And they said, "Well, it's none of your business." And she hadn't been seen since 2007, and that was the number one for my miniseries view count wise. It may have hit like 12, 13,000 maybe. But I covered, I believe, 9 different cases. Really good, really fascinating. I mean, all of them got a pretty good amount of views for what I consider. I mean, I think the lowest one got at least a couple thousand views, and I should have kept up with it. But to be honest, to do one of those episodes, it involved like 13 hours worth of prep work. Um, I actually typed up like a word for word script kind of thing of what I would read, just so I wouldn't get anything wrong, because these people disappeared. So I was somewhat criticized for sounding not like a robot, but I was just like sticking too closely to the words that I had transcribed for the podcast. And by doing so, I mean, I may have come off sounding like a little, I don't know, robotic in a way, but I felt that I had to, because when you cover people who disappear, you don't want to get anything wrong. I mean, you don't want to accidentally misinterpret anything. So I just felt like it was my responsibility to do so. But it was a lot of fun to do. But frankly, I started working full time, because there was a period of time that I wasn't working full time, back when I was married and I got divorced. Well, I was divorced from. And I just didn't have time for it anymore. I mean, it literally took like 13 hours to put just one together. It ate up too much time, and I had so much fun doing it. I mean, if I win the lottery tomorrow, I'm definitely revitalizing that, because that was a lot of not fun. I mean, I can't call it fun. I mean, people disappearing is not fun. I was very passionate about doing so, because I thought by putting it out there, because most of the cases that I talked about were years old. Like, I mean, Tammy Lynn Lepper, for example, that was 1983. That was forever ago. So I didn't want to do any of them that involved people just disappearing months ago. I wanted to do something that involved like years of investigations and trying to get to the bottom of things. Um, and by doing that, I would have had a lot of material to go off of, a lot of sources and a lot of articles, and a lot of things to just put out there. And I thought maybe by doing so, I might be able to, even if for just a moment, I'd be able to revitalize their case if it had gone cold in years past. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty good miniseries. So if you want to look it up, Disappeared, the podcast series, and yeah, check it out. But there are people on there that were leaving comments, people that I guess they could consider themselves fans of my 9 episode podcast miniseries, and they were saying like, "Where's the next one? Come on, where are you?" The host of disappeared, that kind of stuff. But it's just too time consuming. I would just rather do something like this: just pull up a few news articles, spend about an hour and a half reading about them, and then just setting them up one by one and just knocking them all out. But I am planning on starting a more official podcast that I want to do once a week, and it's going to be called the Spathon Express. That's what I'm going for, and hopefully that might gain some traction. I don't know, but I want to talk about science. I want to talk about um, just like history, and I plan on going on Wikipedia and looking up some different things, just what's important that's going on in the news, just pretty much anything that just sounds interesting, like how something is made, or a cool recipe idea, or just something that looks like it would be fun to talk about. I plan on talking about. And I got a friend of mine who I grew up with, not around Florida. I grew up with him out of state. We lived in the same neighborhood together, actually, and just by sheer coincidence, he lives less than 2 miles away from me right now. And we've hung out a lot, obviously, because we grew up together. I mean, we're best friends. Um, and I think I'm going to bring him in if this podcast goes anywhere. I might make a few. He wants to shoot for Wednesday nights. Not sure I want to do that, and I'm not going to do it live, so I guess it doesn't matter. I guess we could just do Wednesday and then just put it out there. But I'd rather do like Friday night, where I can just stay up until like midnight, maybe even 1 o'clock in the morning, just talking about whatever. Um, so anyway, I guess while this is going on, there's a couple of intros that I put together. I guess if you're really interested in looking, that's my pandemic podcast that I came up with. This is the one that I was wanting to put together. And here's a few intros here. I guess I got to still pay attention to this in some way. But yeah, finish segment intro. See, so I want to talk about like astronomy, economics, history, certain life hacks, people that would be like more dramatic type things. Like if something dramatic happened, like Tom Hanks contracts coronavirus, that would fall under that category. And then I would talk about it for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Come on, of course it was nice. Well, I'm definitely out of that. Technology, the internet, anything that's going on online, whether if it's going on now or maybe something that was going on like 10 years ago or whatever. Let's see, science, stuff like that. Just pretty much arts and sciences and current events, anything. And I'm definitely going to open up the comments for anybody who wants us to talk about something if you start to have some interest in this podcast. But I like this segment too. It's called Back in the Day. So it kind of goes over a specific time in history. And I've got it all set up. So I think I've got this thing hooked up for sound. So hopefully this will go through. I know that OBS is kind of strict about its audio. So I'll leave this up here on the side just to see if it'll come through or not. But let's do pre-1930 because it has like a pre-1930 sound to it. This will probably go full screen. Yeah, it does. Because it's coming through my speaker, so that probably sounded atrocious. Anyway, let's see if I can do... I'm going to do the 70 through 89. I like that sound. Well, according to OBS, it did go through. That's why I cut myself off. I think that it actually played on here. So, yeah. And just, and other just random segments, like I want to do like conspiracy theories every now and again. Maybe do like crimes and criminals, like go over something that somebody like FBI's most wanted profile person who's robbed like 13 banks over the last 15 years or something like that. And maybe we'll talk about them for like 15, 20 minutes, something like that. Words for thought, like deep thinking questions, like just, I don't know. Here, actually, I have a list here on this book, or in this book rather, where, let's see, like this one. Assuming you can choose any path you desire for the afterlife, what would your ideal experience be like? It's pretty straightforward. Good thing I didn't have anything there. But, or this one, I don't know if it's that deep thinking really. It's probably just, I'm sure that anybody can probably answer this within 5 seconds of being asked this question. But if you had $100,000, or if you were either given the choice of receiving $100,000, or if you could spend 10 years with your most beloved pet at any point that you had throughout your lifetime, which one would you choose? And I would go with that one. And that pet could be either alive or dead. So like if right now, like if your pet is like 13 years old, the world's going to fall apart or when they die, if you could have an extra 10 years. So if they're 13 now, they'll live to 23 guaranteed. Would you rather take that, or would you rather take $100,000 in cash? Maybe it'll make you think. I don't know. If all of the fast food restaurants that has ever existed around you, all of the fast food restaurants that you've been accustomed to, if they all disappeared except for 2 of them, which of those 2 would you still like to remain? I think that'd be interesting. At first, because when I first wrote that question down, at first I was like, well, hell, that's easy. But then all of a sudden I'm like, well, wait a minute, what about this one? Yeah, that would suck if that one wasn't around. But I can't choose that because I've already got 2. So, and it kind of makes you think, like, if like real deal kind of thing, like think that coronavirus is happening. The entire fast food industry is literally shutting down right now. So this is extremely a relevant question. If there were 2 of them that could remain open, that could guarantee that coronavirus could not penetrate their doors in any way, shape, or form, which 2 fast food restaurants would you like that to happen to? Anyway, who's the most beautiful celebrity? That's pretty stupid. Let's see. I don't know. I got a bunch of these things. If you can invite anyone in the world over to your house for dinner, dead or alive, who would it be? And it doesn't even have to be a celebrity. I mean, it could be a scholar, it could be a celebrity, it could be, even a dead pet that you lost. I mean, it could be anything. Um, yeah, just some of those deep thought type questions. I know the ones that I just skimmed over weren't that deep thinking, but I do have a few in here. Maybe as I'm going on right now, I probably should at least name one of them. Let's see here. Name the top 3 bucket list items if money's no object. That is definitely not. I mean, I guess it could be. You spend enough time. Let's see here. Is it right or wrong? That's kind of interesting. All right. Well, how about this? This might be deep thinking. It's also pretty long. If the United States aids a third world country to help lift out of poverty, but the country that the United States helps to lift out of this third world hellhole, if they should use this money to strengthen production of resources in order to elevate their economy, that said, is it right or wrong for the United States to demand return of our funds once their economy is thriving? So if this third world country that the United States helps lift out of the third world, if they use the money that the United States provides them to produce massive resources that makes their country very prosperous once again, should the United States be entitled to ask for the money that we donated to them to be paid back to us? I mean, personally, to me, that seems pretty clear. I think yes, absolutely, they should be able to pay it back. It's kind of like a loan, right? I mean, if they use the resources in their country to thrive, but in order to do so, they needed capital to get started. Yeah, I think they should pay back that capital up front. Name something you're physically addicted to, and something unhealthy that you love and that you could quit the easiest. That's interesting. I must have read that somewhere. Let's see. Name 3 things that life would be impossible without. Oh. Food, water, and shelter? I guess that's easy for starters. That's a dumb question. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. This is kind of funny. This kind of pertains to my daughter because she loves dinosaurs. Hollywood aside, if scientists announce that they can create dinosaurs and they are proved to be 100% safe, not like Hollywood, that's why I threw Hollywood in there. They are 100% safe. Okay, they've been programmed that way. There's no way it could go wrong. I know Hollywood always says it could go wrong and it will go wrong, but let's just say for the sake of argument, we could create dinosaurs in a lab and grow them to real life size, and they are 100% dinosaurs, but we give them this little thing, which I know is Hollywood-esque, that nothing could go wrong. Should we do so? And if so, should we only do it to certain dinosaurs? And if you say yes to that, if you think we should be able to do that, should we do that to other extinct species? Being as recent as the dodo bird or whatever that bear species was that disappeared in 1959. If a species is extinct, should nature be allowed to own it? Or should humans, with our unbelievable technology, be allowed to revitalize an extinct species? I think no. I think once a species is extinct, it's completely extinct. I don't think we should have any right to bring back something that's extinct because Mother Nature adjusts for it. Especially when it comes to a predatory species. If it's a predatory species, it has a huge influence in the environment around it. And if it disappears, then the weak shall inherit the earth, more or less. I mean, if let's say that I don't know, like let's say that wolves were thriving around this giant wilderness where house cats also lived at. Yes, they're technically predators too, but wolves prey on them. So now all of a sudden there's no more wolves left. The cat population explodes and they become the main predator, but there's so many of them without any wolves, they overpopulate like crazy, and then they have to resort to killing themselves off and, probably cannibalism, this, that, and the other, and they dwindle their numbers down to where Mother Nature deems that is tolerable. Now all of a sudden you have a straight, even system where I guess they would thrive relatively normally. I mean, I'm sure that in any circumstance where this dominant predator goes extinct. Damn it, why did I do that? That was stupid. Yeah, that was very stupid. Oh my god. It's time for me to turn in. Oh, that completely threw off my train of thought. You know what? I'm done. I already knew I won that. Of course I did. So that's it for now. I should have quit this a long time ago because now I can't upload this in time because I have to throw the intro into this video. And as a consequence of that, this probably won't come up until tomorrow after I get off work and tomorrow evening. But that's okay. Nobody's watching this anyway. I think my #1 video that I've posted about coronavirus has like 10 views. So I'm not doing it for the views. I'm doing it just to have something to do, because otherwise I'll just be wasting away watching random YouTube videos. But anyway, coronavirus is getting worse. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. Hopefully there's going to be an end in sight pretty soon. We'll see what happens. I think that the news is going to get much more dramatic in the next week or two. And maybe my videos will start to uptake more because of that. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, I guess until then, everybody stay extremely safe out there, as safe as you can. 6 feet distance. I would double that. 12 feet distance from anybody. Anybody who walks past you in a hallway and you can feel their breeze behind them, hold your breath. Hold your breath. Exhale as you walk past them. That way your nose, and breathe through your nose, exhale through your nose. That way the cilia in your nose will not have any of those coronavirus particles that get stuck to the cilia in your nose. And that way you won't inadvertently get coronavirus because you're going to be exhaling as you walk past somebody. Anyway, that's ridiculous. Whatever. No, I don't think it is, actually. I think that's very relevant. I do that. That's a phobia of mine. When I walk past somebody and it's flu season, I mean flu season meaning winter time. Whenever it's winter time and people tend to have colds, every time I walk past somebody and I expect like the breeze off their body to brush over me as I'm walking past them, I don't like I don't hold my breath, but I actually like I prepare to exhale as I walk past them. That sounds really stupid, but I don't know. In my head, it works. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm glad you listened if you got this far, and I kind of apologize in a way because this video went way longer than I thought it would. Hopefully tomorrow won't go as long because it kills the rest of my evening. Now I can't watch my favorite shows, can't watch my favorite videos because now I have to go straight to bed. I have to wake up at freaking 5:40 in the morning. But anyway, until hopefully tomorrow, I'll try to put out another video tomorrow. But by the time you're listening to this, you'll know whether or not if I put out another video because I'm not going to have time to put this one out tonight. This is going to go out on the 19th. So until next time, stay extremely safe out there. Protect each other. Protect your loved ones. Stay away from everybody physically. And stay safe out there.